Tony Stark was one of the smartest and richest men on the planet. As Iron Man, he protected Earth with his high-tech armor, standing as an invincible guardian. But everything changed after a battle with the psychic-powered Red Skull. Though the heroes won, the psychic backlash altered their personalities. Most returned to normal, but not Tony. Something darker had taken hold. Extremis 3.0, he announced. A technovirus designed to transform you into the very best you can be. Beauty, muscle tone, health. His voice dripped with amusement. Okay, San Francisco, it's time to look pretty for me. With a single command, the app went live. In an instant, the city downloaded perfection. Smiles spread across faces as bodies reshaped, flaws erased. Tony hovered above them, watching with satisfaction. In that moment, he was their messiah. But they were blind to the truth. A week later, chaos erupted. A hulking figure rampaged through downtown. Teen Abomination, a gamma-irradiated kid with too much rage and a terrible name. She-Hulk intercepted him, bracing as he hurled a car toward fleeing civilians. Iron Man descended, unbothered. She-Hulk, what do we have? That's a terrible name, she grunted, shoving the wreckage aside. I told him that. He didn't take it well. Tony chuckled. Why would you choose an age-specific name? What happens when he turns 20? Teen Abomination roared, swinging a makeshift hammer crafted from Iron Man's own helmet. The blow connected, sending the armored figure crashing down. She-Hulk shouted, Tony! A voice crackled from the discarded helmet. Well, that's disorienting. She-Hulk and Teen Abomination froze. The armor stood empty. Tony's voice echoed remotely. Please, you think I'd waste my time on Teen Abomination? The kid's face twisted in humiliation. You're not in there? I invaded your city and you didn't even bother showing up? Nope, Tony replied. You didn't. A laser blast sent Teen Abomination sprawling. She-Hulk frowned. Did you have to hit him that hard? He's just a kid. Tony's response was flippant. And take the personal touch out of the team-up? Why would I do that? Meanwhile, the real Tony lounged shirtless by a pool, sipping a cocktail. A blonde woman beside him asked, Why are you smiling, Tony? He smirked. I just humiliated a stupid C-grade supervillain and saved downtown San Francisco. Between the depravity in the spa and the last sip of this cocktail. Before she could press further, Pepper Potts arrived, unamused. We need to talk, now. Inside his lab, Tony ignored her urgency, showing off his latest creation, the Endo-Sim armor infused with symbiote tech. It's sexy as hell, he bragged. Pepper cut to the point. We need to talk about the Extremis app. Tony waved her off. I transformed San Francisco into paradise overnight. Paradise? Pepper snapped. The whole city is a giant orgy of drunkenness and excess. Tony grinned. So you admit it's a complete success? Outside, the consequences grew darker. A homeless woman untouched by Extremis was shoved by a mob of perfected citizens. Stark made us all beautiful, one sneered. And you stayed like that, one hideous blemish. Daredevil intervened, but even he couldn't stop what came next. A man suddenly convulsed, screaming as his body rejected Extremis. Back in the lab, Tony remained unfazed. The city isn't going to stay like this, he told Pepper. I won't make a lot of money giving things away for free. Outside, screams erupted as people reverted, their enhancements gone. Phones lit up with notifications. Extremis 3.0, free trial period over. Daily renewal, $99.99. Pepper stared in horror. Do you have any idea what they'll do to get that back? Tony stepped into his new armor, preparing to fly away. I want to watch. As he vanished into the sky, Pepper whispered, his mind has been taken. She turned to a shadowed figure. We need to activate the contingency. The figure nodded. Understood. Deep in the ruins of Stark's past, an old suit hummed to life, classic red and gold. A familiar voice echoed inside. This is what we planned for. San Francisco was crumbling under the weight of Tony Stark's gift. Daredevil crouched on a rooftop, listening to the chaos below. The city had been transformed, first by the promise of perfection, then by the cruelty of its removal. Tony Stark gave them Extremis, Matt thought. A taste of beauty, strength, confidence, then ripped it away unless they could pay, and desperate people do desperate things. Below, a young man, shaking, sweating, held a woman at gunpoint. Just give me your damn bag, the mugger pleaded, his voice cracking. No, I need it, the woman snapped back, clutching her phone like a lifeline. Daredevil dropped between them, disarming the would-be thief in a single motion. The woman gasped, then immediately raised her phone, snapping a selfie. You see this? I'm internet famous and this is going online in 30 seconds, she sneered. Matt ignored her, examining the gun. No bullets. The mugger, just a kid, collapsed to his knees. Please, no. My dad is going to kill me. Daredevil exhaled. Crime is running rampant. Lives are being ruined. It's time Tony Stark and I discussed his utopia. Stark Island, formerly Alcatraz, loomed ahead, a floating fortress of gleaming metal and arrogance. Daredevil landed silently on the rooftop, his senses scanning for Stark. Got some bad news, Stark, he called out. Before Matt could react, a repulsor blast sent him flying off the island, plunging into the cold bay below. Tony's laughter followed him down. I won't hold this little outburst against you, but if you come back, coat check the attitude. The ocean swallowed him. For the first time in years, Matt Murdock was truly blind. No echoes, no sense, just crushing pressure and the primal terror of drowning. I hate the sea, he thought, fighting the panic. Nature's sensory deprivation tank. Above, he could hear the distant roar of a party, cheers, music, Stark's voice booming over it all. Ladies and gentlemen, that was our entertainment for the evening. Daredevil, the man without fear, laughter, applause. Though, for a man without fear, he looked just a teensy bit worried on the way down. Matt surfaced, teeth gritted. Tony wasn't just winning, he was performing. The next day, Castro Street. Tony arrived late, sunglasses on, smirking as the crowd erupted. I had a party last night that even extremists can't help me fully recover from, he joked. Then, a man shoved through the crowd, face twisted in grief and rage. You turned my son overnight, David Bray screamed. You didn't even give him a choice. Tony barely glanced at him. Of course I gave him a choice. He agreed before the click. He has an addiction now, Bray shouted. You're monster. Then, bang. The gunshot echoed. The crowd froze. Tony's head snapped back, but the bullet shattered harmlessly against his graphene faceplate. It's called graphene, Tony said, unfazed, stronger than most steels, transparent. He lifted Bray into the air with one hand. Shooting me? I can forgive, but attacking my product in public? That I can't allow. High above the city, Tony held Bray like a puppet. Your son held a woman at gunpoint. The photos everywhere. His life is over. Bray sobbed. Please. I'll make it disappear, Tony said. But you're going to smile. You're going to tell everyone this was part of the show. He forced Bray's phone into his hand. A notification popped up. Congratulations on being close to Tony. Enjoy 24 hours of Extremis for free. There, Tony said. Was that so hard? Bray's face twisted, then smoothed into a forced grin as the drug took hold. Incredible, he whispered. Tony smirked. Damn straight. Now smile. Daredevil heard it all. And that night, he infiltrated Stark's tower again, this time finding something worse than arrogance. Tony lay passed out, surrounded by unconscious partygoers, bottles, and ruin. A woman stirred as Matt lifted Tony's limp form. What are you doing? She slurred. Matt adjusted his grip. It's a team-up. We do these. Somewhere beneath the city, in a black void sealed by EMPs, Tony woke up, cut off from his tech, his armor, his control. A voice echoed in the dark. I want to know how much of you is still in there. Tony laughed. It's all me. A shock hit him, painful, disorienting. You're in my world now, the voice said. You're staying until the city's addiction is done. Tony's grin turned sharp. You think I didn't know you'd come for me? Then, boom. The walls exploded as his symbiote armor, alive and seething, tore through the vault. The ambush was brutal. Tony, now a fusion of man and machine, loomed over Daredevil. I wanted you to come for me, he said, because I have something for you. Electricity surged. Matt convulsed, then darkness. When he woke, he was in his own bed, but something was wrong. The textures were too sharp. The light. There was light. Tony stood over him, smiling. Rise and shine, he said. I told you I had something for you. Matt's breath caught. His hands trembled as he raised them, truly seeing for the first time in his life. Tony Stark stood over Matt Murdock, his smirk reflected in the red lenses of his sunglasses. In their mirrored surface, Daredevil flinched, not from pain, but from the unfamiliar assault of light. I know what you're thinking, Tony said, voice dripping with amusement. You're a very lucky man, Matt Murdock. Matt's hands trembled as he raised them, seeing his own fingers for the first time in decades. Tony crouched, armor gleaming. You get to see again, and the first face you get to see is this one. Hey, where do you hide your good liquor? Tony called, already rummaging through Matt's apartment like he owned it. Matt barely heard him. He staggered to his feet, drawn to the mirror like a moth to flame. The face staring back, older, scarred his, was a ghost made flesh. What have you done? Matt whispered. Tony poured a drink, unfazed. Tailored extremist to jumpstart your optic nerves. Temporary fix, your sight'll fade fast without boosters. He offered a glass. Free of charge, of course. Matt's fist clenched. So this gift comes with the same addiction you're peddling to the city. Tony's grin didn't reach his eyes. Are you trying to buy my approval? Matt snapped. You want me addicted to you too? Overthinking ruins the moment, Matt, Tony chided, swirling his drink. You're seeing. Enjoy it. The glass shattered against the wall. What gives you the right to play God? Matt snarled. Tony adjusted his sunglasses, lenses flashing opaque. Please, if Thor can do it, his voice dropped to ice. I'm not playing God. All this time, I've been playing human. I've wasted years pretending to be one of you, Tony spat, pacing like a caged tiger, holding back so you specs wouldn't feel inferior. He whirled, finger jabbing at his chest. Not anymore, I've changed. The sunglasses cracked in his grip. It's like I was blind, and now I see, only I'm not an ungrateful shit about it. A phone rang. Hang on, Tony said, cheerful again. Important call. Matt's jaw dropped. Are you serious? She-Hulk's hologram flared to life. Tony, Teen Abomination's loose. He's heading your way. Tony sighed. Duty calls. He strode toward the window, but Matt grabbed his arm. A hydraulic whine, and Matt gasped as Tony's armor effortlessly broke his grip. We're done, Tony said, this stepping into the sky. You're beneath me, the helmet sealed with a hiss. When the extremist wears off, enjoy the dark. Thrusters flared. Call if you want to keep your sight. Alone, Matt stared at his shaking hands, watching the veins beneath his skin pulse, then blur. He fumbled for a burner phone. Foggy, he whispered when his oldest friend answered. I need to see you. Where are you? Bullets ricocheted off her skin as a shield chopper opened fire. She hurled a motorcycle like a javelin. Boom! The explosion lit up the bay. Tony caught two agents midair before dropping them into the ocean. Swim lesson included, he quipped, already rocketing toward the green-skinned teen. Stark! Teen Abomination roared, swinging another bike. Tony plowed into him like a missile. Stay down, kid, or I'll really hurt you. The monster, just a boy, Tony realized, sniffled. You're mean. Tony paused. How old are you? 13, the kid mumbled. You tried extremists. It didn't work, Tony deduced, watching the kid scuff his massive feet. So you trashed my island to get my attention? Teen Abomination, not Tony sighed. Get up. I'll talk to S.H.I.E.L.D. He offered a hand. But first, clean up your mess. Nelson and Murdoch office. Foggy gaped at the bruises on Matt's face. What happened? Matt touched his best friend's cheek, memorizing the lines of his smile before the world faded again. Nothing, he lied, the last streaks of color bleeding to black. I just wanted to see you. Wake up, San Francisco. Trent's voice blared from the studio monitors, cheerful and bright. Tony adjusted his sunglasses, watching his own face fill the screen as Mandy, the morning show host, gushed. Our first guest needs no introduction. Billionaire, philanthropist, visionary, Iron Man. The audience erupted as Tony strolled on set, waving like a conquering hero. A free day of extremists for everyone here, he announced, and the cheers nearly drowned out the studio speakers. Iron Sight is now live, Tony declared, holding up a palm-sized drone. Your phones have already uploaded your data, your habits, your movements, even your gait. San Francisco is now a crime-free zone. The monitors flashed with real-time facial recognition scans, names, addresses, purchase histories, all streaming effortlessly into Stark's network. Privacy? Tony smirked at Mandy's hesitant question. If it's a choice between safety and Trent's bizarre browser history, there's no choice. The crowd ate it up. On a rooftop, Daredevil crushed a drone in his fist. Identified Matthew Murdoch. The machine droned before dying in a shower of sparks. Matt's jaw tightened. He'd heard it, the frequency hidden beneath extremist code, inaudible to anyone but him. A trigger. A lie. I know what you've done, Stark, he growled. Back at Stark Tower, Maria Hill touched down in a whirl of jetpack thrusters. "We need to talk," she said, eyeing the hulking form of Teen Abomination lurking behind Tony. "He's not a fugitive," Tony countered smoothly. "My lawyers saw to that." Maria's hand hovered near her sidearm. "Don't push this, Tony." Tony's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Oh, Maria, I'd love to see you try." Drones circled overhead, lenses glinting. Inside, Tony laid down the law for Jamie. No touching, no raging, and absolutely no teen abomination. "Did you mean it?" Jamie asked, voice small for a gamma-fueled monster. "Will you save me?" Tony studied him like a lab specimen. "I'll study you. If I can fix you, I will." Then the doors hissed open. "Hello, Matt," Tony said without turning. Daredevil stepped into the light, fists clenched. "Justice," he said simply. Tony sipped his drink. "That's broad." "The trigger," Matt pressed. "Extremis isn't an app, it's a virus, and you put it in the water supply." Tony's glass paused midair. "Careful, counselor. Where's your proof?" "San Francisco banned bottled water," Matt shot back. "You made them thirsty." A beat, then crash. Jamie barreled through the wall, roaring, "You can't take him away." Tony moved fast, grabbing Matt in a chokehold as Jamie's fist sent Daredevil flying through the window. The Iron Man armor snagged Matt midair, tendrils cocooning him as Tony's voice crackled through the helmet. "Stop struggling. You'll only hurt yourself." Back in the tower, Tony strapped Matt to a lab table. "You're too stubborn," he mused, fingers dancing over a neural interface. "Let's start over." Matt's scream echoed off the walls. "Matt, can you hear me?" Blurry white ceilings, beeping machines. Tony's face, faux concerned, swimming into view. "What happened?" Matt rasped. Tony patted his shoulder. "You took a nasty hit, but don't worry, you're in safe hands." Tony Stark leaned against the lab console, swirling a drink as the holographic DNA strands of Teen Abomination twisted in the air between them. "Not going to lie. This could sting a bit," Tony said, flicking a syringe filled with glowing nanites. Jamie flinched against the restraints. "Why do you have to tie my arms down?" "Last time you got angry, you threw a superhero through a window," Tony replied, plunging the needle into Jamie's unnaturally thick skin. The boy howled as the tech forced its way through his gamma-hardened tissue. "You!" Jamie thrashed, veins bulging green. Tony didn't blink. "You're 13, which means you know nothing." He tapped the empty syringe. "Don't get aggressive with the guy who figured out how to stab through your unstabbable skin." The DNA scan whirred to life, projecting Jamie's genetic code in shimmering blue. "This'll tell me everything about you," Tony mused, "except how you became this." He leaned in, suddenly clinical. "So, tragic origin story. Let's hear it." Jamie's fists clenched. "My mom worked for you, Katrina. Watch close, baby. We're making history today." The reactor hummed to life. Green energy erupted. Scientists flew backward. Katrina barely shielded Jamie as the blast consumed the room. "Mom!" Jamie screamed, clinging to her as the ceiling collapsed. Somewhere in the chaos, a shadowed figure slammed the emergency shutdown. Tony swirled his drink, frowning. "Gamma knife alternative. Could have cured cancers in seconds." He sighed. "Two critical injuries. Your mom was fired." Jamie's eyes glowed. "She said it happened because you neglected the company." Tony's glass froze mid-sip. That was the day the Black Llama returned. Flashback. Tony's war. The Black Llama, a cosmic madman, floated above Manhattan, golden orb pulsing. "Fight and be my champion, Whiplash," he boomed. Iron Man, already battered, dodged energy whips. "Your recruitment sucks," he grunted before a psychic assault sent him crashing into Stark Tower. Back to tragedy. Tony's armor sparked as he staggered into medbay. "Get Pepper. We need to." Whiteout. The gamma test happened without him. "I can't remember," Tony admitted. The truth unfolded in pieces. The bullying. The skateboard he couldn't afford. His mom's desperate lies about Christmas. Then, the snap. "I don't need you to protect me," Jamie roared as his skin split green. The house exploded. When the dust cleared, his mother lay motionless. "Mom!" The scream echoed through time. Tony exhaled sharply as the DNA scan pinged. Maternal, Katrina Carlson. Paternal, Harold Hogan. Jamie's jaw dropped. Happy was my dad?" Tony nodded. He's dead." Silence. Then quietly, "I was going to dissect you for profit," Tony admitted, "but you're Happy's kid, so I'll fix you." Jamie eyed the floating city monitoring drones outside. "What about protecting people?" Tony smirked. "The cameras handle it. Mostly, people just think about being naked." Later. Alone, Tony scoured archives. Access armor footage, December 13th. No records found. Security feeds. Same date. Deleted. The glass trembled in his hand. I've lost time, he whispered. Someone took a day from me. The reflection in his drink twisted into a familiar shadowed face. Now, who could do that? Tony Stark strode into the Pentagon briefing room like he owned it, because, in his mind, he did. Military brass and government scientists sat stiffly around the table, their expressions a mix of skepticism and thinly veiled irritation. Tony ignored them all, dropping a sleek data drive onto the polished surface with a deliberate click. "What is this, Mr. Stark?" the general demanded, eyeing the device like it might explode. Tony smirked. "For you, $200 billion." His gaze flicked to a nervous man in a lab coat. "And no, Larry, the clipboard isn't selling the genius look." The room bristled. Tony didn't care. "Is this a weapon?" the general pressed. Tony's smile turned icy. "No, this isn't a weapon of war. It's a tool of pure annihilation." Trish, his ever-loyal assistant, tapped her tablet. "The yield calculations are catastrophic." "Good thing I'm not building it," Tony said, straightening his cuffs. "Just selling the plans." He paused, savoring the moment. "Oh, and I've already sold copies, one in Russian, the other in Chinese." Pepper Potts' fingers froze over her holographic display. "What?" The AI voice of Resilience Iron Man armor echoed through the empty office. $200 billion was just deposited into Stark Industries' account. Source, untraceable. Likely a sovereign government. Pepper's stomach twisted. "The problem isn't where it came from," the AI continued. "It's what Tony intends to do with it." She exhaled. "Then we stop him." Tony strolled into the boardroom of World Media Group like a king surveying his court. The executive stood, murmuring pleasantries. "We appreciate you coming personally, Mr. Stark." "I sense a however coming, Gerald," Tony interrupted, dropping into the chair at the head of the table. Behind him, a hulking figure in an ill-fitting suit loomed. Teen abomination, Jamie, his green skin clashing with the corporate decor. An executive scowled. "I don't appreciate this intimidation." Tony grinned. "What intimidation? He's 13. Do you know how hard it is to get a babysitter for a giant green monster?" He leaned forward. "Think of this as take your kid to work day." Phones buzzed. Tony rolled his eyes. "Seriously? None of you turned off your phones for the biggest meeting this company's ever had?" Then he dropped the hammer. "You don't need to check. I'll tell you what's happening. Before I walked in here, I leaked my takeover bid to every news outlet, including yours." His eyes gleamed. "Those messages? They're from your shareholders, all saying the same thing. Sell." Gerald, the CEO, turned purple. "You arrogant." Tony cut him off. "Your empire was crumbling. I'm just offering twice its value. Plus $1 billion extra. Buy yourself something pretty." Security rushed in. Tony sighed. "Jamie, don't." Too late. The table shattered under Jamie's fists, debris exploding through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Screams erupted as glass rained onto the streets below. Tony watched, amused, as guards raised their guns. "Don't be idiots," he warned. They fired. The bullets tinked off Jamie's skull. His roar shook the room. Then, silver lightning. The superior Iron Man armor encased Tony mid-stride, repulsors humming. He landed between Jamie and the guards, bullets ricocheting harmlessly off his symbiote-enhanced plating. "I said, stop firing." Pepper's voice cut through the chaos. "They've already accepted another offer." Tony turned. There she stood, regal, furious, heels hovering just above the ground thanks to her rescue tech. "I just bought 54% of this company, for Resilient." Tony's smirk faltered. "Pepper, there's no Stark and Resilient anymore," she said coldly. "You told me to ruin your legacy. I'm doing great." She gestured to the wreckage. "You'll get a bill for the table and the window. Now leave my building." Jamie growled behind her. Tony chuckled. "That's no way to talk to your stepmother." Pepper blinked. "What?" Tony winked. "Not here. We'll talk later." The elevator descended deep beneath Resilient HQ. Too deep. Tony frowned. "I don't remember offices down here." Pepper's jaw tightened. "We've expanded." She turned to Jamie. "I want you to know this isn't about you. I'm sorry." Before Tony could react, her jet boots ignited, launching her upward. The doors hissed open, and red and gold armor slammed into Jamie, knocking him unconscious with a single repulsor blast. Tony staggered back as the mystery Iron Man advanced. "Who the hell are you?" The helmet retracted. A familiar face grinned back. "Don't you recognize me?" The imposter seized Tony by the throat. I'm you.